Alright, what is up, Aquarius? Giving y'all a fuller, fresher July reading. Well, you already have the messages, but let's see. I'm reading differently. So first we're going to read the message and the prompts, then the prompts. That's the new thing. Here's the message. I channeled, I'd rather just say, wrote, broke down simpler in word form from my reading. But anyway, Aquarius, accepting your foundation or level of self and improving. Beware of not being the best representation of yourself. Be trusting in yourself like it's healthy for the environment. Accept that situations this month will be hitting your emotions in personal ways. Trust in that you're learning and others are learning you. Trust in that you're learning and others are learning to know you. Don't worry, just do what you can. Here are the prompts. 3 questions, 3 prompts, right? What part of myself am I refusing to accept? What does growth look like without self-judgment? How can I be a better representation of who I already am? Yes. Interesting. Isn't it crazy? You're still more yourself. You just get rid of the limiting beliefs. False ideas, right? And that's the trajectory each sign's going in. Or the lesson they could utilize, the higher vibration of themselves, I guess. Before I start talking about everything, let me answer your prompts. Because I motor mouth Capricorn, then got to their reading. So I'll give you the work first, then we'll talk. Aquarius. What part of myself am I refusing to accept? 3 cards to answer this question. Nice. Pulled out your card in the first pull. I guess letting your guard down. Letting your guard down. Which would just be, trusting yourself is. So that's the part of yourself you're refusing to accept, because, you came out in the reading. So not having your senses up, paranoia. That's pretty much it. Isn't that crazy? Next question. Next prompt. So yourself is the answer, obviously, because what you're refusing to accept. What does growth look like without self-judgment? What does growth look like without self-judgment? So yes, let's see if I can get to that trajectory. Looks like we're going in. Well, me, I actually started at Taurus. I would have to start at Aries, actually. So I'm thinking about my, rising sign. My placement's on, so. True. I do start with my rising. End with Aries. So, technically, supposed to start with Aries. Don't matter. Let's see, what does growth look like without self-judgment? 3 cards. Only pondering on how well and how much we trust, not being in the feeling, that's what it is. It's like knowing too clearly, but that's all it is. So without self-judgment, growth without self-judgment is you actually having information to actually help the environment, since you're not looking at yourself too much. You actually could, or have whatever comes in to be helpful, because I see these cards as like insight coming in, because your mind is free to actually, fixate and handle other things. So ironically, it's funny, when you're trying to change, you don't do anything. You just don't fight feelings. Me, I'm over here doing all this right words, right regimen. Oh, I didn't pay attention to what signs came out. Last question. So how can I be a better representation of who I already am? I'm pretty sure no major came out, because I would have mentioned the sign, their message. So, how can I be a better representation of who I already am? Seems like Virgo's message might be helpful in this case. Well, Leo and Virgo's message pretty much. Being who you already are. Just do more of that. And the beauty of it is, it's not about, it's like you don't focus on what you're doing as long as you're doing it, basically. Because you're trying to get yourself plugged into your life, which is pretty much like Leo, the opposite sign, as much as possible. So what would help you do that? Be as much in the action as possible. You can say that, dare I say, the action of how would you own yourself again? Not self-judgment. So this is what you do to handle self-judgment each time. What I'm trying to say, Aquarius, before I get off the camera, you may have the shortest video. No majors came out. But what does growth look like without self-judgment? That was you being able to focus on information because you're not focused on yourself. So present. So essentially being present so much to where you're picking up on essentially is the present day new information on you being affirmed, right? Proven, worked on. Forgive me. So no more self-judgment. So fully yourself. That's part of yourself you're refusing to accept. What was that answer? Damn, forgot that answer. I forgot that answer. Okay. So Capricorn's handling these emotions. You have the solution, I guess, for the you have the solution, which would keep being yourself. That's why it was so funny, because it's like when somehow you're able to separate, toxins from water, separating toxins from yourself to be more digested. More understood, clearly seen. So that's what it is. So you keep being yourself and change happens. As long as you have the higher, higher reaction, higher expression, the higher route to take, the more, each time as yourself does cause change. So let's get on to what signs I truly believe would help. I said Virgo and Leo's prompt. So Virgo, what do I already know that I'm pretending I don't know? What decisions is awaiting beneath all the analysis? What action would create more clarity rather than another hour of thinking? In Leo's prompt, how would my future self respond to this challenge? What would dignity look like now? If helplessness wasn't an option, what action would I take next? Okay. There are the messages. see what other advice wants to come out. That's it. So funny, being yourself and seriously responding higher with the right mentalities is how change happens. I kept thinking I had to change myself literally, like what I like, what actually I like to change. Having a good attitude essentially is where the change happens. You're working out your inner. Let me get off the camera. So that's the trajectory you're trying to make sense of. Somehow it goes right back. I started at Taurus, though, so that does kind of make it confusing. It's like, why wouldn't you just start at Aries? But it's like, why does it keep skipping Aries? That's the one I gotta do last. Yeah, I'm not about to read that much. That's just too much work. But it would be good. I guess that's what people in operas, soap operas do. Actors, they go over their lines crazy, till it's natural. A naturally planned conversation. That somehow, you mean to tell me people have fun having the same dialogue? Only they would know, but think about that, acting. People, the hard stuff they do, like the live acting, like live action on stage. I mean, that has to be a different experience every time, right? Like, it'll never be the same exact. You'll never say your lines the same exact way. Like, it'll always be different. There must be an understanding about that. Like, no play is ever exactly the same, right? So you should always be present, because nothing's ever understood that much to be autopilot. But yet, my messages give you attitudes to help you see, why would this make sense? Fine, here's the experiment. So they're the messages, really. Here's the experiment, It's beautiful because I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm just saying, what would it feel like looking at this, using this mentality, using this cheat code in your month when things happen? Does it help you see yourself? Does it help you see others? Is it both? I am so in love with just making sense of things, man, making it clear. So I know what direction. I just want the information to be clear, sifted out. Now we can utilize it. Somehow use this air to give more life. The words coming out of my mouth, effortless. A good use of my breath to actually help build something stable in yourself. I keep saying it. Apparently elements in the air are what make the trees. That's crazy. So the right mentality makes the great foundation, makes something very strong. Next sign. Later, Aquarius, 30 messages for July. I didn't even recap. So from Taurus is like trusting yourself. My bad. Taurus is facing things with full presence. Gemini is trusting yourself so you don't mistrust others. and you believe you can handle all situations as long as you trust yourself, whatever outcome, right? Cancer is being able to go through the day and be able to tell whether they're emotionally reacting emotionally, being aware of their ideas and judgments is what they should watch out for. As long as they hold that still, essentially going through your day and being aware of your old ideas, what you could label now as an old belief, old idea of yourself, of people. Leo's fully out, no longer set back, no longer having inner judgments, just now having a contest about how well they can execute being themselves in the moment, doing their duties, their tasks, engaging as sincerely, as clearly, on top of the worries of not being good enough. Dare to have that contest, to step on and dance on any lack of, trust in yourself, confidence in yourself. So having this contest with how well you can execute being yourself is going to help Leos. Better use of their focus rather than being hopeless, They're not allowed to be hopeless. So this contest will help combat feeling hopeless. How well am I being myself? And that actually is good for you, Leo being across from you. How well can you execute you being yourself? Use yourself as the solution to worrying about yourself. Fuck it. Double down on being yourself. So, and then on to Virgo, which is the truth of yourself, being embracing the truth. That's why I read Virgos to you. Pretty much about them embracing their truth and making that their program, owning more of their truth of themselves into where their perfected truth of themselves. They're programming you only see themselves. True. Condensed. Unadulterated self. Ah, yes. Libras is about stilling the mind and going through the experience of this self and others, right? With this new self, right? I added that one. I just said stilling the mind. Other videos, I just said stilling the mind, going through the experience. But now, stilling the mind to go through the experience of your new self is even better. Scorpios they're trying to find the tranquility through this new self emerging versus the old self. Finding tranquility when anxiety comes up, when situations that feel risky come up. The new self, trusting the new self solutions, the new self's feeling to just be tranquil is Scorpio's month, lesson in July. So Libra stilling their mind through being new self, through being their new self. Scorpio's tranquil as this self is using the new self solutions in the old self's situation with the old self's feeling in the situation for July. Just stay with me. Sagittarius, they're more aware of their instincts, reactions, what to minimize, what thought loops they keep having, and what it would look like without narrating themselves. So essentially, no longer shielding themselves, just like Taurus, full presence again, full eagerness. No need to shield the blow, limit the blow, what you think is what. And remember, we're disagreeing and still connecting. So it's player, I swear to God, how I go through the day. Because you, at the end of the day, if you believe who you are works, you have no worries of what looks like what when you see it, because that helps you disagree with others and still connect. I mean, and then to not even know you're not even be in disagreement with what you're seeing. I mean, because you don't know what it really is, so you can't really disagree. And then, yeah, technically what I gave y'all was that type of answer to help you limit the blow, right? To disagree and still connect. But the real key is being able to go into it as a regular experience, because that helps you, see them and actually connect in the interaction, not just what I feel about this situation. So that's for Sagittarius. I wish I said that in that video. But anyway, so now we're moving on to Capricorn. So Sagittarius was about owning their reactions. I did kind of give them a solution that I'm saying should lead to a clearer solution, which is just like Taurus, full presence through the experience. No longer trying to prepare your mind, just going through it with this new self. Gotta add that part. And so now we're on to Aquarius. My bad, Capricorn. The duties Capricorn should focus on while these opportunities are coming up, right? Which is smarter, you should be a workhorse. Because if you're doing all this work, at some point, you'll just be doing all this playing. I mean, and this is serious work anyway, to make sure you're fully yourself for stuff that's fully for you. So that's what Capricorn's doing. You're tending to your subconscious, tending to your emotional reactions. Seriously. Ironing it out. So Sagittarius is aware, but you have the simple action of just being yourself through it. Or was that your message, Aquarius? So you could say Capricorn was just tending to that part of themselves before worrying about possibilities. Good things, goodies. You should be ironed out so the goodies come, and it's like getting goods. Like, yeah, in my basket. It's for me. This is for me. Helping you become a more bold expression. That's what I believe Capricorn's message goes to, the trajectory they're going in, right? Because the idea is being yourself. You don't have to be doing drastic shit. Changing, going through transformation, opening up to new parts of yourself. You can still be yourself, and yet the new comes in. It's crazy. I guess it's just having a better attitude through all this, no matter what. Yet, facing that feeling when you go through that experience, forgive me. So, trying to keep up with the clear trajectory we're going in, simple. So, Aquarius, we're on your sign now. So Capricorn was like about tending to duties first, so opportunities come knocking at your door, and you're perfectly certified and, trained for these things for yourself. Things for you. And then if I believe your message, Aquarius, was like, what gets in the way of you being yourself greatly, I should have wrote down the answers. Yes, what does life look like without self-judgment? Kind of like you and Aquarius and Sagittarius have a similar thing. I can be a better representation of who you already are. I forgot the answers. So I'll write it down as I watch these videos back to see the trajectory. Each sign goes in, and then look at it as a page in a book. I might be onto something. Anyway, I'll think about that. I'll write it down. So maybe this is probably it. I'll cut out the video because I will cut out the video. Aquarius, I believe essentially your video is about how you can be yourself and yet change still happens. Like when you sift out impurities of water or chemicals, right? To get the condensed, raw, purest, like alcohol, 99%, 100% yourself. Bold color that you are, So later, Aquarius, on to Pisces.